Welcome to the Wind Up with Will. I'm your host, Will. Let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about the MLB All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby and my predictions for that and how both leagues are going to construct their rosters. Well, I guess they've already constructed rosters, but I mean the lineups for the All-Star Game. Yeah, I guess we'll just jump right into how the All-Star lineups. So let me get it pulled up first. First, I'm going to go through the actual rosters so you know who's on what team. Uh, so if you didn't know, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game is coming this next week. Home Run Derby for the All-Star festivities will be tomorrow night, Monday night, and then the All-Star Game will be on Tuesday. It's the oldest All-Star game in professional sports, and it's also the most prestigious. So it's a lot of tradition in it. But here are the current rosters for both leagues, for the National League and the American League. We'll start with the American League first. So the American League rosters, the top vote getters for each position are the automatic starters, except for starting pitcher. So in the American League, we have these are the starters. They got the most votes. Starting off, we've got the catcher Jonah Heim from the Texas Rangers, or Heine, I think it's Heim. First baseman Yandy Diaz for the Tampa Bay Rays. Marcus Semien for the Texas Rangers at second base. Third baseman Josh Young from the Texas Rangers. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The shortstop Corey Seager for the Texas Rangers. Mike Trout, outfielder for the Angels. Randy Arozarena, outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays. Outfielder Aaron Judge for the New York Yankees, last year's American League MVP. And the DH Shohei Ohtani. Now, Mike Trout and Aaron Judge are injured currently, so they do have replacements, and the replacing starters for them will be Austin Hayes from the Baltimore Orioles as an outfielder, and Adolis Garcia, outfielder for the Texas Rangers, which gives the Rangers 5 starters in the American League lineup. It's the first time in 47 years, I think, that a team has had 5 starters in an All-Star game. I believe that's what I read. It was 47 years since the last time a team had 5 starters in the All-Star game. So we'll go through the reserves real quick. So the reserves, we got 2 catchers, Salvador Perez for the Kansas City Royals and Adley Rutschman for the Baltimore Orioles. First baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the Toronto Blue Jays. Second baseman Whit Merrifield for the Toronto Blue Jays. Shortstop Bo Bichette for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a third baseman Jose Ramirez for Cleveland baseball team, Guardians, Indians, whatever you want to call him. I almost said he was a shortstop, but he's third base. Shortstop Wander Franco for the Tampa Bay Rays. Luis Robert Jr. for the Chicago White Sox. Jordan Alvarez for the Houston Astros. Kyle Tucker, outfield for the Houston Astros. Really, Jordan Alvarez is a DH, but he's an outfielder as well. Outfielder Julio Rodriguez for the Seattle Mariners. The All-Star game, forgot to mention, is in Seattle, so good pickup for him getting on the All-Star team. So Seattle has at least 2 All-Stars instead of 1. Home fans have got to have something to cheer for. And then DH Brent Rooker for the Oakland Athletics. Pitchers, Shohei Ohtani, phenomenal guy, batting and pitching. Garrett Cole for the New York Yankees. I should mention Shohei Ohtani's with the Angels. Garrett Cole for the Yankees. Luis Castillo for the Mariners. Wouldn't be a bad pick to start the game. Sonny Gray for the Twins. Nathan Eovaldi for the Texas Rangers. Kevin Gausman for the Toronto Blue Jays. Shane McClanahan for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's injured. Framber Valdez for the Astros. I think he is injured as well. Michael Lorenzen for the Tigers. George Kirby for the Mariners. Pablo Lopez for the Twins, and Jordan Romano for the Blue Jays. I should mention George Kirby, Pablo Lopez, and Jordan Romano were added, I believe, today, as well as Julio Rodriguez, Kyle Tucker, Wander Franco. Those were all later additions to the rosters. And Jordan Alvarez, I think, is injured as well, so he won't be playing in the All-Star game. And for the relievers for the American League, those were the starting pitchers I just went through. So one of those guys is going to start. Relievers, they have Kenley Jansen for the Red Sox, Emmanuel Place for the Cleveland baseball team. I think he's injured or no, he's not playing for some reason. I can't remember the reason, but he won't be at the game. Felix Bautista for the Baltimore Orioles, not a bad pick for reliever of the year. Yanir Cano for the Baltimore Orioles, and Carlos Estevez for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So that's the full roster there for the American League. They have several guys injured and not playing, so not all those guys are going to be in the game. For the National League, what the National League roster looks like, the current starters that were voted in by the fans. Catcher Sean Murphy for the Atlanta Braves. First baseman Freddie Freeman of the Los Angeles Dodgers, a former Brave. Second baseman Luis Ariz for the Miami Marlins, maybe the best hitter in baseball right now. And it's actually interesting. The Marlins traded him for Pablo Lopez, who made the All-Star game as a Twin, and the Twins traded Luis Ariz to the Marlins, who's now an All-Star for the Marlins. So both teams are getting what they wanted out of that trade. Third baseman Nolan Arenado for the Cardinals is also a starter. Shortstop Orlando Arcia for the Braves is also starting. Ronald Acuna Jr., also of the Braves, is in the outfield. I should mention Arenado's third base, Orlando Arcia shortstop. Outfielder Mookie Betts for the Dodgers is a starter, and so is outfielder Corbin Carroll for the Diamondbacks. Phenomenal rookie there in Corbin Carroll. And DH JD Martinez got voted in as well for the Dodgers. There's not really that many great picks for DH in the National League. I mean, it's kind of a new position in the National League. The Braves and Rangers seem to be dominating the starting positions. So the reserves for the National League, we got catcher Will Smith of the Dodgers, catcher Luis Diaz for the Rockies, Matt Olson for the Braves, first baseman, second baseman Ozzie Albies also of the Braves, third baseman Austin Riley also of the Braves, shortstop Dansby Swanson of the Cubs. I think he's injured at the moment. He won't be playing in the game. The one Met, Pete Alonso, Polar Bear, the New York Mets first base. Shortstop Geraldo Perdomo for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He was a late addition, replacing Dansby Swanson. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. of the Arizona Diamondbacks is in the outfield. Outfielder Nick Castellanos of the Philadelphia Phillies. Outfielder Juan Soto of the Padres. And backup DH is Jorge Soler of the Miami Marlins. And so going to the pitchers of the National League, we've got Zach Gallen of the Diamondbacks, Spencer Strider of the Braves, and Bryce Elder of the Braves. Both of those guys will be unavailable for the All-Star game. You have Justin Steele of the Cubs, Mitch Keller of the Pirates, Josiah Gray of the Nationals, Clayton Kershaw of the Dodgers, and Marcus Stroman of the Cubs. Both Kershaw and Stroman will be unavailable in the All-Star game. Some late replacements for starting pitchers, Kodai Senga of the Mets. I keep forgetting that they added him today. So there's not one Met, so it's two Mets, Kodai Senga and Pete Alonso represent. Alex Cobb of the Giants is also a late addition as a starting pitcher, and so is Corbin Burns of the Brewers. Relievers for the National League is Alexis Diaz of the Cincinnati Reds. He is their only All-Star on that talented young team. Josh Hader of the Padres. Devin Williams of the Brewers will not be playing in the All-Star game, but he was selected. Camilo Duvall for the Giants. David Bednar of the Pirates, and Craig Kimbrell of the Phillies. Bednar and Kimbrell were late additions to the rosters. So that's the full rosters for both leagues. I don't know if I really needed to read all that, but just for anyone who didn't know, that's full roster. I mean, you could probably Google it, but that is the full rosters for each team. I'm gonna now share how I think each league will make its lineup. So the National League, how I think they will structure their lineup is similar to how some of these guys play on their teams. So leading off, I've got Luis Arraez playing second base. This is for the National League. Luis Arraez leading off for second base. Ronald Acuna Jr. batting second. Freddie Freeman batting third. Two old teammates batting back to back. Then Mookie Betts batting fourth. He's hit a lot of home runs this year. I think he's a good cleanup guy. But the way that lineup is there, Luis Arraez, arguably the best hitter in baseball, just totally off of average. So you want to have him towards the top of the lineup. Ronald Acuna Jr. is probably the actual best hitter in baseball, and he bats leadoff for the Braves. So having him second is not a bad pick there. Freddie Freeman's a good three-hole hitter. Have him there. Mookie Betts has a bunch of home runs on the year, so I'd bat him fourth. Nolan Arenado, batting him fifth. He's got some power. He's a good all-around hitter. Corbin Carroll bat him sixth. He's a rookie. You gotta kind of bat the rookies lower in the lineup. Sean Murphy catching will be batting seventh. JD Martinez, the DH, batting eighth. And Orlando Arcia, the shortstop for the Braves, batting ninth. He offers some speed at the bottom of the lineup. That's how I think the lineup will probably go. And the starting pitcher for the National League, I have Justin Steele of the Cubs. I looked at the roster and the guys that are on the roster for starters for the National League, and guys like Zach Gallen. Zach Gallen pitched Friday, so I don't think he's likely. I don't think he's likely to pitch again by Tuesday. It's just not enough time off. Mitch Keller of the Pirates, he pitched the other day as well, so I don't see him being the starting pitcher. I think Justin Steele is probably the best option when you have guys unavailable. And Spencer Strider and Bryce Elder are both unavailable for the All-Star game, so I think Justin Steele of the Cubs is probably a good pick to be the National League starting pitcher. Moving on to the American League lineup now. This is how I think they will structure their lineup. Leading off, they've got Yandy Diaz of the Rays playing first base and being the leadoff hitter. It's not often you see a first baseman being the leadoff hitter. Batting second, I've got Corey Seager, shortstop for the Rangers. He's having a phenomenal kind of quiet year this year. I feel like I never hear about him. I looked at his stats. He's batting like 340. Like, great year. No coverage, no one talking about him at all. But great shortstop. I would have him towards the top of the lineup. Yandy Diaz, phenomenal hitter as well. So you got guys hitting for high averages, batting 1 and 2. And it's no shocker that I have Shohei Ohtani batting third for the American League, but I would not be surprised to see Dusty Baker batting leadoff. I really don't understand why teams nowadays want to bat guys that hit 30 some odd home runs leadoff. Sure, you get out to an early lead. If you bat in third or fourth, they could hit 3-run bomb. I'd rather the 3-run bomb than a solo home run. But anyway, Shohei Ohtani batting 3. He's leading the major leagues in home runs and RBIs. I just fail to see how you have this guy not batting third or fourth in this lineup. Batting cleanup, I have Josh Young. I think it's Josh Young, is how you pronounce that, of the Rangers. He's got 19 home runs on the year. Got the power, got the pop, batting like 270 something. So he's a good all-around hitter, decent hitter. He's a rookie and perhaps the front runner for Rookie of the Year in the American League. And he's got power. Shohei's got 30 home runs, but I don't think that they're going to bat him lower than 3, just because he's arguably the best player in baseball. You're going to have him batting within the top 3. But after the top 3 in the American League, I think it's kind of hard to pick how they're going to structure the lineup, how Dusty Baker's going to structure the lineup, because you kind of structure it multiple ways. But I think Josh Young batting 4th. I've got Adolis Garcia, his teammate, batting 5th. He has more home runs, and I think he has a few more RBIs. But he's got a lower batting average. He was a later pick for the All-Star game. You could flip them either way, but I would have those guys batting around there. Randy Arozarena batting 6th. You could argue him batting higher. He's got a decent amount of home runs and RBIs. All around good hitter. This is the tricky thing about the All-Star. game lineups is that there's so many good guys. It can be hard to place them in a lineup sometimes. And 7, I've got Marcus Semien. He doesn't quite have the home runs he did a few years ago with the Blue Jays, but he's having an all around really good year. So I have him batting 7th. 8 is Austin Hayes. Has a really good average for the Orioles. Again, another late pick, so I see him more towards the bottom rather than towards the top. And normally in these All-Star games, unless you're just like a phenomenal average hitter, like batting like Luis Arraez batting like 380 right now, I just don't see Austin Hayes batting very high. I mean, he could. I'd like to see a guy with a high average batting higher in the lineup, but just because he's not a big home run guy, I kind of see him towards the bottom line. And Jonah Heim, the catcher, batting 9th, as most catchers do in a lot of lineups. Just kind of see how that's shaping. And the starting pitcher I have for the American League, I think, is Shohei Ohtani. I just struggle to see them not picking him just because he's arguably he's the best player in baseball. He started the All-Star game, I think, last year. It's hard not to pick him to be the starter. So it'd kind of be a little odd. He's going to be the starting DH and pitcher. It's an All-Star game, then doesn't matter. And I'm going to go with kind of a shocker here. I'm going to pick the National League to actually win this game. 7-5 is my pick. Ronald Acuna Jr. winning the MVP. National League has not won in a long time. I think they've lost like 9 straight. I think the last All-Star game the National League won was in 2012. Yeah, I think that's right. I think 2012 was the last game the National League won in the All-Star game. So it's long overdue. But I kind of think the NL will come through. I think the NL lineup is just better, especially with Aaron Judge and Mike Trout both being out for this All-Star game due to injuries. I'm kind of favoring the National League. Maybe should have done my home run derby picks before, since this home run derby is before the All Star game. But for whatever reason, that's just how I typed up my notes over here. But I'll go ahead and talk about the home run derby. Well, I'll finish. I'll talk a little bit more about the All Star game. So if you didn't know, in baseball, the All Star game, the 2 teams that play in the World Series the previous year, their managers get to then manage in the All Star game. So 2 teams in the World Series last year were the Philadelphia Phillies managers. Their manager is Rob Thompson, and the Houston Astros, who beat the Phillies to win the World Series. Their manager is Dusty Baker. So Dusty Baker is going to be the American League manager, and Rob Thompson is the National League manager. I'm sorry if I didn't. I should have explained that in the beginning. That's why I was referring to Dusty earlier. He's going to be the one constructing this lineup for the American League. Rob Thompson constructing the lineup for the National League. They do have other coaches and managers from other teams in MLB. Like there's usually several other representatives, and usually the host team gets a coach as well. So I think one of the Mariners coaches will probably be on the team. But anyways, going on to the home run derby now. My pick for the home run derby. So they seed them now, which is kind of weird. I think they've done it the last few years. So I'll go through the seeds real quick. They have the 1 seed's Luis Robert of the White Sox. 2 is Pete Alonso. Go Mets. The 3 seed is Mookie Betts of the Dodgers. 4 is Adolis Garcia. 5 is Randy Arozarena. 6 is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. 7 is Julio Rodriguez of the host Seattle Mariners. And 8 is Adley Rutschman. And so they seed them based on how many home runs they have. And usually every year there's 1 or 2 guys that are in the home run derby that it's kind of like, should they really be in it? But they can't always get top home run hitters to play in it. It's understandable, kind of like the NBA. They can't always get the guys who do the best dunks to actually be in the NBA slam dunk contest. So here are my picks for the home run derby. I have the 8 seed Adley Rutschman having a major upset over the 1 seed Luis Robert. I don't know. I feel like every year there's usually one guy that's not a big home run hitter that just has a surprise run. Adley Rutschman only has like 12 home runs right now. Luis Robert has 26, I believe. I don't know. I just got a feeling that Adley Rutschman's the guy this year with the low home run total that's going to upset the guy with a lot. I've got Adolis Garcia, the 4 seed, over 5 seed Randy Arozarena. No surprise, I have the number two seed Pete Alonso beating Julio Rodriguez in a rematch of last year's home run derby semifinal. Pete's going to get his revenge. That. And then I have the 6 seed Vladimir Guerrero Jr. upsetting the number 3 seed Mookie Betts. Guerrero Jr. went off a few years ago in the home run derby, so I kind of see him having a repeat here. So in the semifinals of the home run derby, I have Adolis Garcia over Adley Rutschman, and then Pete Alonso over Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Another rematch of the final back in 2019 when Pete beat Vlad. So Pete's gonna have a couple rematches in this home run derby, at least in my prediction. And then the final, I have Pete over Vlad again to win his 3rd home run derby, tying King Griffey Jr. for the most all time. It's totally unbiased opinion there. Totally unbiased. Totally unbiased. No, just ignore the Mets hat. It's totally unbiased opinion that Pete's going to win. So those are my picks for the MLB All-Star Game, for the Home Run Derby. If you have any reservations about my lineup decisions or my Home Run Derby selection, let me know in the comments down below. Tell me who you have starting tell me how you would construct your lineup, National League, American League, who you think the starting pitchers will be, who will win the home run derby, who do you have winning the All-Star game in the home run derby. Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.